Good evening, welcome to episode 4 of In at the Side. I'm Dom Harvin. I'm joined with regular Neil Williamson, a guest host, our social secretary Jason Kay, and Gloucester forward Lewis Ludlow. Lewis, how are you tonight?
I'm very good, thanks. Very, very good. Doing well in terms of the isolation, so it's not too bad.
Good. So
sorry, Dom. Go on.
Go on. Yeah, I was going to say, how are you filling your days? Are you still keeping fit, or have you got club targets to meet still?
Yeah, well, I had luckily the week before the lockdown, I went for a shoulder operation. As we kind of knew that it was end of season, it's something that I'd been playing with for 5 or 6 weeks. Spoke to head coach, head physio, and the doctor that was supposed to be doing the surgery at the end of the season, and he said that if we can get it done now, they're going to shut the surgery where I was going in Cardiff. They were shutting it on the Friday. Due to coronavirus, and they weren't sure when it'd reopen again. So the ideal was to get it done now, wouldn't miss any games. So for me, it's just been rehab at the moment, doing that at home, which is interesting. First couple of days, physio came and we did it through my conservatory when we were still allowed to travel. Now we're not allowed to travel, it's done over platforms like this, FaceTime, etc.
Yeah,
but that's going really well. So yeah, just keeping busy with that really.
So how's the feeling within the team? Are you all keeping in touch? What banter flying about on the WhatsApp groups, I imagine?
Yeah, we've been set. We've been put into teams, and we get set challenges for every Tuesday and Thursday. There's someone's got to do like a joke, a fact, and their bio to try and learn a bit more about each other.
Oh, that's nice. That's good.
I'd say, to be fair, we're actually quite a close squad now. Anyway, there's not been too many new guys over the last couple of years, sort of 1 or 2 each over the last couple of years. So it's interesting. Even lads that I'd say I've known for sort of 8-9 years now, is you do still find new stuff about them on stuff like that, which is quite cool.
That's a good thing.
Sorry, Tom. As I said, that's a good thing with situations like this. Not just with Gloucester, with your teammates, but it brings everyone closer together, doesn't it? And I think that's one of the main benefits from this terrible situation that everyone's in, is that it's bringing, ironically, bringing people closer together in isolation, because I haven't spoken to my mother as much as I have done in the last week, in years. But with the COVID-19, just a quick, your views on it. Do you think that there will be any short or long-term effects on rugby as a whole, or the Premiership, or do you think?
I think the first meeting we had as a team, it was a very drastic, quite a drastic meeting between the 12 Premiership clubs, the 13 including Newcastle, as to what could happen. And we basically got told that if players didn't go on if certain teams didn't drop the wages from players, then Premiership rugby would be gone come September. So we were like, when you look at that, you think that's, there's jobs gone, that's my job gone, that's a whole, it's a whole sport gone, wiped out within sort of 6 months. It's not like the football where the money and that's completely different. And it's that rugby is very much a team, team sport run by its fans, and still is, Gloucester as a club, we rely on our fans massively for that turnover as well, and the Saturday selling out of Kingsland. So it was quite a stark reality to something that you had a bit of a laugh and a joke about when you first hear about it in what's going on. You're like, oh, that's it's just a flu. Everyone will get it. It'll come over here. It won't happen. And then you look at where we're at now, and it was a long time ago.
Yeah. Well, it's funny you mentioned the finances there. I mean, obviously, I'm Gloucester born and bred. I'm a massive Gloucester fan. That's why I think I met you in Hooker and 8 previously.
Yeah.
Basically, it's a case of not so much like, obviously your players, your wages are affected. It's the people that work at the stadium. It's not so much that, but it's Gloucester Town as a whole would massively suffer if rugby was gone long term. And that wouldn't be the only town in the UK, obviously.
No, especially Gloucester. Obviously, you mentioned there places like Hooker and 8 that get massive footfall on match days and stuff like that. And you being around Gloucester a lot, is the town comes alive on those Friday nights, Saturday night games, European Cup days. It really does make a massive difference. And you speak to anyone that's got a local business with regards to hospitality or marketing or anything like that. And Gloucester Rugby is a huge thing for Gloucester, so that's why it was such a big thing, and it was easy enough thing for you to sort of sit there and take. When you look at that as a final outcome of no Gloucester Rugby, you kind of can't think that can happen, but they're sitting there in front of you telling you numbers wise that it will happen in 6 months if these things don't get put into place first. And luckily the government brought out the furlough scheme, which obviously helps everyone, including Gloucester Rugby, so that worked out really well.
I've got a question. So obviously you've seen what's happened with a lot of the Worcester players who've now been put on the furlough list. Is there anything within Gloucester and the other clubs that are actually following suit, or is there any inklings of what's going on there?
I'm not entirely sure. I know as a club, there's certain people in our club that have been put on the furlough, and some that haven't. I think, to be honest with you, it's all to do with what wages you're on and what part of the department you're in, and as to whether or not you're still allowed to work, because that's obviously quite a big thing. With regards to like some of our physios, there's some physios that can send you stuff, or some stuff that has to be done voluntarily now due to the furlough scheme. And things like the media manager, like he still needs to be employed, because if media stops for Gloucester Rugby, then what happens? It's one of those things that at this time there is a lot of people sitting there on their phones, on their laptops. Media can be one of those things that players, fans can still engage with, and you see that they're running all the previous games where we're winning the cups and that sort of thing. It's a nice little remembrance of what we're watching and what Gloucester have done in the past, and hopefully what's to come in the future.
Yeah, and that shows the kind of dedication of the staff who are still maintaining that kind of working role, which is great within Gloucester Rugby, just to maintain that, and it shows that kind of that togetherness that we kind of need in these times.
Yeah.
So, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but the Premiership technically still hasn't been cancelled this year. So
yeah, no, it's still open.
Do you think it will continue? Do you think it should?
I would like to see it. Personally, I think I'd like to see it concluded behind closed doors. With regards to that's everyone's safety, I think as players and as staff, if everyone has fully isolated for the proper 7 to 14 days, no symptoms, we can go in and train. There's no reason why we can't then play another team that's done the same. It's just obviously most people have got the TV now. I know there'll be people out there saying I can't afford this, I can't do that. Whether they lowered subscriptions so everyone could watch it, for the last 6 to 8 games, whatever it is. But I think you go into a dangerous aspect of who finishes where, if not with regards to Champions Cup places, etc. And such a big thing in the Premiership with finishing money, it does change a lot on your position. And that Champions Cup, I say it's a bit different with regards to the football. With Liverpool only needing two wins, for example, to win the league, then they could almost play 2 games, win it, job done, close it off. Whereas for us, it's massive thing on playoffs. Playoff money is huge for clubs. You get into those playoffs, whether especially you get a home one, that can almost make or break what you do with regards to your marketing next season. So I think they're going down a dangerous path. Obviously, health and safety is the first priority wherever we are now. So I'm sure a decision will be made fairly soon, because we're now getting into the realms of if we do start again, then when do we finish?
And if it's safe,
that there potentially could be a few games to finish the season and then roll straight into next season. But how that works, I don't know, because then you've got the RPA that are saying that players need their mandatory 5-week rest, which currently this doesn't count as, because we still have to train. We're still being sent stuff to count, so it's not as straightforward as it would be just saying job done, or we'll start again next season type thing.
Mm-hmm. No, that's fair enough. And I mean, touching on a subject that's very close to our hearts, and obviously, I've spoken to you before about it, and you were very kind to send us a support video for the cause that we're promoting, which is men's mental health awareness.
Yep.
Obviously, everywhere you look now, everyone is really, really concentrating on this message. realising how important the mental well-being is. Particularly Gloucester as well, obviously with the Be Kind game recently. Which I went to. Now, in terms of men's mental health awareness, well, not necessarily just men's, but in terms of the rugby side of things, does every club have something in place, like a support structure, if a player's feeling down or if they're struggling, or is there something like across the league that players can go towards?
So we, firstly, we have the RPA, who have several helplines that they're open 24/7. You can go to, whether that's mental health, gambling, drug addiction, anything, those type of things that every year you think, well, that doesn't happen in rugby, but every year they come in at the start of the season and say there are this many cases, obviously anonymously. But there's cases for everything every year, whether that's monetary, mental health, like suicide, all that type of thing. And as a club, we actually have, so we've had 2 in the past year. I don't know if psychologist is the right word, but sort of psychologist type people that are completely separate from the club, so you don't have to worry about it. A lot of boys would get sort of funny about going to someone at the club if it might affect selection, it might affect how they're viewed by coaches, how players. They're a completely separate entity whose interests are just you, how they help you. That it might be, that might be getting over a long-term injury. It might be your selection problems. It might be stuff at home. It's not just rugby. Everyone's got home lives. Everyone's got families. Whatever. So it's that sort of thing to how you get through that. And I think as a club at Gloucester, we've actually got a real good stand on that. I don't think there'd be too many people at Gloucester that would have. I think we're quite close to the squad. We're very open with each other. We're lucky with our head coach. He's probably the most open bloke there is in terms of how he feels and how he wants us to tell him to feel. There's been instances before where head coaches, you're sort of black and whitish, all rugby, and this type thing. Whereas now, not just a head coach either. With all of them, Tigi, Dinger, T-Boss, you can talk to them about your home life. They're more than happy to talk to you about theirs. And you're a big group of mates, and then it's you sort your mates first, and then you're into your coaching bit second, rather than the other way around. Which is quite good.
Good to hear. Brilliant. And in terms of, obviously we've been on lockdown at the moment, what sort of things are you doing to take your time when you're not training?
So I live on, I'm probably a bit different to some of the lads. I live on a bit of a small holding. So the majority of the last week and a half has been doing our paddocks, so rolling, harrowing, flailing, that type of thing. And then I've been modifying a Land Rover Discovery.
Nice.
Which nice. I absolutely dispatched the front axle on yesterday.
Is that a Mark 1 or is that an early model?
2, so D2, TD5, which I was trying to tow something which was way too heavy.
Yeah.
Towing it was fine. I was then tried to move it around the corner by pushing it with my front bumper, and the front diff just exploded.
Oh dear.
Wow.
Sounds like
I'll be changing that at some point in the next. I've got a new axle coming on Monday, so that'll be getting changed over the next week, I'd imagine. And I'm respraying it as well. So.
Well, at least I'll be giving you. But you'll have to send some pictures. I need to see this.
Yeah, hopefully it'll be good when it's finished.
Excellent. I say it's a vehicle after my heart. I've always one of them, and it sounds amazing. But they do sound expensive, especially if you're going off road all the time. And
if you're doing stupid things. To be fair, my missus did call it when I said about what I was planning on doing. She said, "You're going to break your car?" And I was like, "No, it'll be fine." And she seen me towing the car back to the garage with the tractor. She knew I broke the car, so it was good.
Fair enough. And just, I suppose, more for grassroots players out there, not necessarily, professional or Premiership players or anything like that, but have you got any tips for any players out there that are missing rugby at the moment and want to hone up their skills, other than sort of dump tackling the cat? I don't think that's advice.
For me, to be fair, I've actually strangely enjoyed it because I was always one, whether it was before college or at home, I actually quite liked sort of training on my own. So it's nice to go back to that type of going out to my garage and just sort of doing those bodyweight things. Everything we've been doing so far has been bodyweight, and not necessarily. I'd say not necessarily doing sort of the CrossFit type things where it's they're more geared towards sort of. There are certain aspects of it that are good for rugby, but for me, it's like I struggle to keep on muscle mass really badly. So rather than doing loads of reps that expend loads of energy, I've been doing stuff where it's like you'd sit in a squat for 60 seconds as a hold rather than doing 10 squats. And
Right.
same with a lunge, same with sort of, anything to do with legs, that type of thing have been all holds rather than, like I say, loads of most, boys that the big lads or boys that, they'll be doing sort of 15, 20 reps of most things to sort of keep the energy going as well as the legs. Whereas me, it's more holds and stuff like that rather than, because if I was doing that, I'd end up going back at 90 kilos and wouldn't have a job. So
With explain it for the layman to me. So the hold, what does that give you benefit of? Is that for building more muscle mass?
Yes, it's more of a hypertrophy session of a bodyweight style. It's time under tension, so your muscles are constantly under tension rather than the repeated contractions of a normal squat. So if you're trying to build muscle in a gym, you do rep ranges of sort of 8 to 12 of a heavy squat.
Yeah.
Whereas if you squat and hold at the bottom for sort of the most tension part for 60 seconds, or a lunge, we do a lot more single leg, so a lot more lunges, a lot more single leg squats. You do them compared to your double, you get the same feeling as that if you're in the gym. A lot resorts to single leg because obviously there's no weights unless you're lucky enough to have some sort of weights or you can find anything around the house, then that's fine. But yeah, the single leg squats, you think you'd be able to do half your double leg squat, it doesn't work out like that. You can do a single leg bodyweight squat, you're doing pretty well.
Yeah. Well, brilliant. Fair play.
So you're out, Neil. You can't. No, just leave that alone.
That's it. I'll be cancelled. Perfect. So, obviously, you mentioned earlier briefly Newcastle coming up.
Yeah.
Now, by all accounts, they've been flying in the Championship.
Yeah.
Do you think they're going to have a big impact on the Premiership, or do you think they're going to, realise the big step?
I think, depending on who of their squad goes back, they lost probably their two best players in Hammersley and Mark Wilson last year to Sale. Whether or not they go back is, I could see Mark Wilson going back being, Newcastle through and through, but Hammersley's probably settled in a lot better at Sale. Wilson had that injury and stuff like that, and Sale's back row stocks are ridiculous. So I could see him going back, but you look at their last season in the Premiership, the season before where they went to finish fourth. That's a completely different team now. Yeah. And I know a lot of the players did stay, and they were flying in the champ. But we watched a couple of their games. To be fair, me and a couple of lads went to watch them against Hartpury, and I noticed all that thing. You sometimes play down to where you are, but it is, having played in the Championship, it is a massive step up. Like it is a whole different. It's a different game. It is a completely different game playing Championship rugby to then playing even the bottom of the Premiership, because as you've seen this year, there is no bottom. There's a top one that are now at the bottom, and Exeter, and then there's everyone else that can beat everyone else.
Yeah. So
and even you've seen in the last probably the last 2 or 3 months, Exeter have been getting beaten home and away, and 2 years ago no one said that would happen. Exeter have been beaten at home by the likes of Bristol. No, that will never happen. Well, it's happened, and those things they're not becoming uncommon, which is a mad thing.
Bristol,
that flows quite nicely, as well as what obviously Saracens are now destined to hit the Championship. Obviously, they're keeping most of their international team together. At the same time, obviously, the RFU have cut 50% of the budget towards the Championship. What kind of impact do you think that's going to have on the game? Is it just going to be an absolute decimation from Saracens, or is it, as you say, you kind of play at the level that you're at, sort of thing?
To be honest, I don't think many of those boys will play many games. I think with it being a Lions year and that type of thing, then a lot of those boys will they'll either be, they might play the odd game or two against the big guys in the champ, whether that's Ealing or Coventry, but I can't imagine seeing them Doncaster away on a Friday night in the pissing rain, that type of thing.
Could that be an issue for the England setup with them not having much game time moving forward?
That's the question. I was talking to my dad about this only the other day. It's how much confidence Eddie Jones has in them, how much he's already told. I imagine with them all staying, he's already told them they're going to be fine. Yeah. And the same with probably Warren Gatland with the Lions. He's obviously said that they're still going to be picked. They're going to be picked on previous form, not this year's form. But then you've got the issue then of Ireland, Scotland, Wales then going, well, we're all playing, Champions Cup rugby week in, week out. Mm-hmm. These guys coming in, on one hand, you can look at it, they're coming in fresh, but then are they coming in rusty? And all you need is 3-0 in South Africa, and then all of a sudden it's Sarries players' fault again, which not too bad. But
and you'd hope, given the level that they play at, you'd hope that the rustiness doesn't come in too much. But at the same time, it's that big thing is you're not playing many games. You're not getting the ball through the hands. Your mind's not ticking over from a rugby sense. So
it'll sort of be that sort of black sheep type thing. If anything was to go wrong, or it could be the first thing media are going to jump on, etc. So it'll be interesting to see how it does all pan out. To be fair.
Yeah. And then do you think if it works out and they still do maintain, does this give Eddie a chance to have a look at some other Championship players who could be bringing through and thinking the Championship could be a good breeding ground? Yeah, like the Ealings and the Coventries, and they're not likely to leave. Could it be a good way of him looking at the next generation and start bringing them in for the lower level games? Yeah,
to be fair, everyone knows what Eddie Jones is. He's not afraid to pick a random pick, or I think there was a stat that we got shown as our club that he's picked the most people to go into England camps out of any former England coach.
Yeah.
So whether that's sometimes we spoke to he's had lads from Gloucester in just for like a day, just go in there and you think you're there and he's like nah. Or you speak to Bob, the old Gloucester physio, who they have to sort of send in medical records of players he wants to look at, and he said it can be 10 to 12 players a day that he changes his mind of who he wants to see, who he might pick in the next camp.
That must have a lasting effect on someone's mental health, a player's mental health. Thinking, I've got the call up, I'm in the England camp, and then a day later they're gone. I mean, that's a massive effect mentally.
Yeah, huge. And there's all kinds of stories about what he does in England camps that, sometimes they reckon he puts teams up on a whiteboard and midway through the session he's changing the teams and they have to swap the bibs, and which happens. That happens all the time. Like, it happens with us. He names a team and then. But the fact of seeing it on a whiteboard, going out to a session, start the session, you're like, right, well, that's obviously his first team. I'm going to be in that, and then end of the session, there could be 6 different players in there, and that's all that thing with. That is probably one of the biggest things in rugby in terms of your mental health is where you fall in that selection line for that week.
Yeah.
And I'll be the first to say that I struggle with it massively. If I don't know the team sort of by Tuesday. Before our day off, then my day off is not a good day.
I'm with you on that one. If I don't know I'm playing on Saturday, at least for the first team of my club, even though generally it happens, I get itchy and I'm start thinking, is it? Am I? What's going on?
Yeah. My assuming like, well, what's wrong with you? What's wrong? He hasn't in the team. Well, I'll leave you alone then. Yeah, just leave it. Sometimes Johan doesn't name it until Friday, and like it's just you sort of team run, and you're like, "Am I in? I don't know."
So what do you do to kind of help yourself through that? Because that's going to be a big thing for a lot of rugby players, and most rugby players will be exactly the same. So what do you do to get around that and to kind of take your mind off things?
For me, is almost just try and think back on what I've done in terms of whether you've had you might have had a bad game, but there's always good parts of a bad game. That sort of thing. That there is always you've never had 80 minutes of playing terribly. There's always a couple of standout points, or looking at what you can do. All you can do is the decision is going to be the decision. You're not going to change it. It's then what the next step is. So it's how you go about it, how you like for us, it's Johan's quite approachable about how he does want you to come and ask him the question. So it's for me, it'll be going what my approach is going to be either way, whether I'm in, then it's great, you carry on. If I'm on the bench, then it's this conversation. If I'm completely out, then it's another conversation, and then how I always look at the next sort of the week after that is what I can do conditioning wise to get back to replace the game. That's the big thing for me. Replace the game on the weekend and then go again on the Monday. It's just sort of a clean slate.
Yeah.
Do you ever find that? We've all been there where you're expected to start and you find yourself on the bench. Do you ever find that spurs you on that when you do come on, you have an absolute stormer, and then you try to prove them wrong to see, this is why I should have been picked to start with?
Yeah, but I've also had it where it goes the other way.
Yeah, you find yourselves at the
impact
player. It's the best thing in the world to do.
Yeah, come on, gone like a madman, giving away 3 penalties, and then they're like, "Well, you give away too many penalties." So like,
yeah,
it's that, and especially when I was a lot younger, that was one of the when we had Laurie Fisher. That was when I was sort of breaking into the team on the bench a lot, and it was how to control the aggression, work rate, excitement into right. It doesn't matter. I haven't got to win the game or lose the game in 20 minutes. It's just I want to do like sometimes you can have the best game off the bench. Job. We take the mick out of Freddie Clark a lot of Gloucester, but he came on the other week and got man of the match after 20 minutes because he just came on and did what none of us had done for 60 minutes.
Yeah.
And it's just like what we'd asked to do all week. We'd literally been told just go forward all week. All of us have been doing. I can't remember what game it was now. We were doing badly, and he brought Fred on, and even I was in the game and just thinking, Fred's doing well here. Like, he's going pretty well here. Then we finished the game, and Johan always gives a man of the match after the game. And when he said Fred, I don't think there's one person in the room that would have said, "No, that was they can't be doing that." But
yeah,
he was just came on and played his game for 20 minutes. Didn't do anything exceptional. Didn't do anything badly, but just did what he'd been told to do, and it just worked really well.
Yeah. I noticed you're sporting the shaved head like myself.
Yes.
Is that due to COVID-19 lockdown?
It is, yeah.
Before?
No, it was an NHS. Todd Gleave actually nominated me for it. To be fair, I was getting close to doing it anyway. Yeah, it was.
Dom.
Yeah. What? Dom lost a bet the other night. We flipped the coin and Dom's supposed to shave his hair.
Get it gone now. Get it gone.
I know. I need to
Lewis,
get around to it.
Lewis, I think you need to kind of out him publicly and get Dom to do it.
Yeah, you got to do it now. I'm also in another group.
I'm sure an Instagram post saying Dom get it done it means he has to.
Okay, yeah. We'll get that done afterwards. But I'm also in another group of I don't know if you've seen it on Facebook. It's called the Beard Isolation Challenge.
I've seen it, yeah.
So
I'm interested in this now.
It's started by the guy who lives in my little village. He owns the garage, and they were just having a beer, and they said everyone should shave, and then grow their beards until the pubs reopen, and then go for a beer.
Yeah.
And it started off as a bit as a joke, and now it's turned completely on its head. There's like 1,000 members. He's earned 15 grand for the NHS of Gloucestershire.
Wow.
And there's people with like fully grown beards, like shaving them off and starting again. Two shaving their heads. It's mad.
I mean, I've been growing this beard for 23 years.
I love the NHS. I love what they're doing, and they're doing an absolute sterling job. And obviously, much respect for them. But my beard is staying firmly put.
Yeah, but I did shave again.
This baby face is coming nowhere near. I've got a 5-month-old. He won't recognise me otherwise.
Yeah.
I don't want to make him cry.
Sort of coming towards the end, I've got a scenario for you, right?
Yeah.
So you're on lockdown. You've got to lock down with one player from Gloucester, whether it be past or present, right? Yeah. You cannot go out the house at all. People are bringing you food. People are bringing you everything. You're on lockdown for 2 weeks. Who would you least like to be locked down with?
Oh.
Least
like
that went the opposite of what I thought we were going to say. In fact, let's go for the least and the most.
The
least to be Val.
Why?
Right, why is that?
He's an oddball. He is like
bad habits.
He is freakishly strong, but also freakishly weird. It's just.
Is he the sort of one who'd be like, right, today's exercise is I'm bench pressing you, I'm squatting you, that sort of thing?
Yeah, and then or he just wouldn't talk to you the whole time. He'd just sit in the room and just ignore you, and you'd be like, do well.
And on the flip side, then, who would make it a dream? Who would make it easy in lockdown?
To be fair, Todd. I had Todd Gleave.
Yeah.
He's a real good cook, and he can make really good coffees.
Perfect.
And we train together all the time at Gloucester, so it'd be a perfect training partner as well. It'd be ideal.
Excellent. What more do you want?
Spot on.
Well, have you got anything to add, Dom or JK?
No, I think that's been great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
One for me. So obviously today marks a year since we lost a very close, a close friend to a lot of the cancer research walls and to the Nomads in Sean Lewis. So a year marks the day that he lost his battle to mental health. For you, what advice would you give to young up-and-coming rugby players and rugby players as a whole on what to do around mental health? What would you say to them right now?
I'd say that the best support network is usually already around you. You don't necessarily have to go and find a certain company or a certain phone line or anything like that. It's usually friends, teammates can be the best chats, and whether that's whether you don't like to chat and that's easier over a beer or it's easier over some food or a coffee or whatever it is, then it's that. I'd say don't tend to look too far for it. It's usually actually already quite close to you.
Yeah, strong words. And yeah, agreed.
Agreed with that.
Well, thank you very, very much for your time, mate.
No worries.
Pleasure. Obviously, we'll get this clipped up and edited, and what we'll do is I'll let you know when it's out and about and send you a link to it. And
yeah, perfect.
Thank you so much,
Perfect.
mate.
Cheers, Lewis. Thanks very much.
Cheers, guys.
Cheers, mate.
Take
Cheers,
care.
mate.
Bye.